Welcome to the Artist's Guide to Business. Welcome, my dear artist friends, to an episode that might just redefine how you approach the vibrant yet unpredictable world of commission art. If you've ever found yourself in the midst of a commission and you're feeling the excitement of creation only to watch as that excitement spirals into a vortex of endless revisions, unclear expectations, or dare we say, the silent echo of an unpaid invoice, you are not alone. This scenario, far from rare, can transform what should be a rewarding experience into a haunting nightmare. And in the past, you might have skirted around the edges of commission work, either steering clear of it altogether or stepping in with a hopeful heart and let's see what happens attitude. But what if I told you there's a way you can navigate these waters with confidence? There's a strategy that you can use that doesn't just hope for the best, but it actually crafts a better and more fulfilling commission experience for both you and your clients. So here's what I have for you today. By setting these 3 key boundaries and then sticking with them, that's part of it, in your commission process, you can turn potentially chaotic experiences into harmonious experiences of creativity and satisfaction. It does require you to sort of take charge and to be the architect or the designer of these rules. It's sort of like building a scaffolding around your business interaction with a client, but it's totally worth it. And it's worth it because you get to provide a really nice experience for your clients while also never being in a position of uncertainty or confusion, or the worst, overworking yourself for someone when you really don't know what the endpoint or end goal is anymore. So yeah, and it's the best feeling. I dropped off a commission today and this client was so lovely. Let me take all the time I needed, my process just got a lot longer. I don't know why. So I need to start communicating that with my new clients, but it was so fun. I brought it to her house and we took off the tissue paper and her face just lit up and her eyes were twinkling and, she loves her piece of artwork that I made and I made it to represent something really important to her in her life. It was awesome. So I really want you guys, if you have curiosity around commissions, but you also have fear of how do I manage the customer, myself, and the whole situation, that's an understandable worry. That was a great commission that I just had. I've also had really bad ones. I had one that was really bad. The scope of the project continually changed, and I didn't have enough knowledge or skills to make it stop. And I completely stressed myself out for weeks on end, trying to satisfy someone that could never be satisfied. So I don't want that for you. I really don't want that for you. But I do want you to know I've been there. And so that's where these 3 main boundaries come from. It's all from really lovely, painful experiences. So allow me to have done the hard work of having to experience and, go through these painful experiences so that you don't have to. And I mean that sincerely. I don't want you to. It's not fun. It's brain damage. It really hurts your heart. Okay. So let's get into it. So this proactive strategy empowers you to craft fulfilling experiences for both you and your clients, and it focuses on clear pricing, communication, and work expectation. If you embrace these boundaries, you're not just protecting your creative energy, you're also enhancing the value of your work, and you're fostering deeper connections with your clients and setting the stage for a business model that not only survives but thrives on commission work. If you're going to be doing a lot of commission work, you really want to get this dialed in so that it's just a system that runs in your business and you don't have to think twice about it. First off, let's just talk about what is a boundary. If you don't know what a boundary is, then this is a really exciting moment in your life because boundaries will change your entire relationship with relationships. But specifically in the context of a business, a boundary is basically like a rule or a guideline that you set up front. You set it before you start really interacting with anyone about what you are willing to do and not do. It's a way to say, as an artist, I will do this and I will not do this. Boundaries help maintain a professional and respectful relationship with your clients. And also, it actually makes them more mutually beneficial. And I'll explain that in one of the pieces a little further along the way here. But once they're in place, and they offer a really reliable process that you can apply consistently. Okay, so our first topic with boundaries and commissions is pricing boundaries. So this sounds basic, but artists are scared of pricing. I understand it. And clients are scared of hearing pricing. Like, money is a scary thing for everyone sometimes. If you are someone who has never been scared of having a conversation around money, then I am extremely curious about you. I'm also a little bit jealous. But pricing boundaries make sure there's no surprise for you or your client, and that both parties are comfortable with exactly what exchange is going to happen. So mostly I'm going to be talking about how to protect the artist with these boundaries. First of all, you are allowed to ask for and require a non-refundable deposit on any commission at all, or even to ask for full payment in advance, depending on, kind of the scope, how much the payment is, right? Like if the commission is a $300 commission, most people can put that down as an advanced payment. Now, if the commission's like a $7,000 commission, you may want to break that up. But no matter what, you want to include a non-refundable deposit. And what that means is you have decided on a predetermined amount that your customer needs to pay you to even get started on this project. And that payment can never be returned. It is your money once it enters your bank account. The reason for this is because once you start a project, you are investing your time and your resources into it. And no matter what, if they have, decided they don't want to do it again, or they switched something happened in their life, whatever. There's all sorts of things happening all the time. You are still protected, right? Like, you're still compensated for what you've already put into the project. The other nice thing about requiring a non-refundable deposit is that if someone hesitates to put it down, you're kind of cluing in to the fact that they may not be fully committed. So in my business, my pet portraits all require 50% down. The smaller sizes really truly could just be a full advance pay, but I just haven't switched that over. To do mural work, I require a $500 non-refundable design deposit. Before I even start getting into the design work, they need to put some money down. Again, because you'll get tire kickers who want to talk to you about a potential mural on the side of their building, having no idea how much it will cost or how much it should cost. And then you'll do all this work for them, drawing out designs, doing all this. And then when you show them the design, maybe they'll like it, whatever. And then they'll hear you say some price for the very first time, and they'll be completely, thrown off, and then you're not getting paid for all that work you put in. So, it's a way to kind of pre-qualify your clients that you're going to work with as well. Okay. Another piece about setting a boundary with the price is that you, as the artist, should set the price. You should be the final deciding point on what price you're willing to accept for the work you're going to do. So likely you'll have some sort of base rate for your commissions, but unique projects will arise, and that can kind of be difficult to judge sometimes. So always make sure to consider your actual needs. And if a client can't meet your price, well, there's a few things you can do. Sometimes you can find an angle of their value that you might get from doing a project. Maybe it is a high visibility project, or, they say something like, oh, we'll give you a good, spotlight on our social media account or whatever. I'm not saying work for exposure. I'm not going to ever say that. But what I am going to say is that as an artist, as a business owner, sometimes value comes in other ways than just money. And I want to give you permission and nudge you to get creative about finding that value. So if it's a high visibility project, then, and you're not going to get paid what the full price you want to get paid for, then figure out how to make that visibility an active part of the agreement. Get really clear and really specific about exactly what you're getting paid in. So whatever it might be, and then And then also, I mean, to be honest, there's some times where it just, maybe it's a high visibility project. Maybe it's a very heartwarming project. Maybe there's different ways that you can use projects to market yourself and to show up in your community and in the community at large. Just make sure you're figuring out what the value of it all is for you, and never do something that you're not getting a fair amount of value in return for. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's a really good boundary. And if it requires anything on their end, make sure it's always in writing, right? So you should have a contract, but even if it's stuff like, oh, we're going to feature you in our social media, put how often, how many times, all of that. Okay, boundary number 2. This one is really important and so freeing when you enforce it. So you want to set boundaries around the expectations for your work, meaning that you are basically going to protect your creative well-being as well as your customer's experience. So the very first place to start with is to make sure the person you're talking to or the client you're about to engage with is familiar with your past work. Ask them, have you looked through my portfolio? Can I send you my link to my portfolio for you to get familiar with the work that I do? Because then it will set a very realistic expectation for style and quality. And then on top of that, like, you are allowed to communicate very clearly what the client wants and any potential challenges that might come up. So for example, if someone wants a pet portrait from me and then they send me, 5 photos of the dog and it's really, really dark and hard to make out that dog, I will communicate with that client and I will say, hey, I just want you to know these photos are pretty challenging for me to work with. Some artists won't even work with bad reference photos, but I usually will because it's, that dog's usually passed on by then. And I want to give them something for it. So, but I will communicate, just to be clear, the quality of these photos is pretty rough. So that's going to affect the outcome of this portrait. I will do my best, but I just want you to know that. It's going to be harder for me to see details and to get every shape exactly right, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all just about being really clear about the reality of what's going on between the two of you and what the art's going to go through. And then you can set expectations for the work around like revision limits. So early on in my career, I was doing a pet portrait and I loved process photos. Because I was an artist, I could look at a process photo and I would know where it was going. And I would be so excited by like the little details coming together and all of this. And I would send, really bad cell phone photos to my clients of the in-process shots, and again, like, I saw what was going on and how exciting it was. But like, this is before I had a smartphone, you guys. Like, photos were really low quality. And in most of those situations, the clients would always just be like, oh, exciting. Like, this is great, But in one of them, they wrote back and they said, oh, like, it's great, but you didn't quite get her eyes right. And the thing is, I hadn't finished her eyes. I had just put a very base layer in on her eyes or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the piece of the process part that I was excited about, but it's what they saw. And rightly so, they mentioned it because they didn't understand what my process was or what it meant, right? Like, they saw that and saw that as like, oh, this is going to be what this looks like. And once they said that to me, I am not kidding, I could not get that dog's eyes right for the life of me because I was so stressed out about it. And I was trying to see what they were seeing. I was trying to see the art through their eyes. I was trying to see everything about it through their eyes instead of through my own. And it threw me off so bad. And, I finally just I finished it and sent it off and put up a little prayer. Like, sometimes that's all you can do. And I didn't hear anything about it. Like, they didn't say anything bad about it or anything like that. But it showed me that for me, it's really hard to take, revision feedback, especially in process shots. And so from that point on, honestly, I stopped I stopped sending pictures of work to clients almost completely. There's a few reasons for that. The main reason is that a photograph never is going to create the same experience as seeing the art in real life. The colors will be off, the emotions will be off, everything's off. Everything is flattened. It's just different. So I don't like to introduce a photograph as part of their understanding of their artwork. Does that make sense? So I know a lot of commission artists will still allow revisions, and like, bless you. I don't know how you do it. I think I've done it like once or twice, but honestly, my clients that I work with, I communicate that to them, and they all pretty much just trust me to do what is going to work out best. Hi, Huckleberry. Can you sit, please? Here. So that's how I work. But if you are, if you're a little bit better at taking feedback than I am, all the power to you. And even in that case, though, you guys, you want to set really clear boundaries around revisions. So, for example, if you are doing a series of revisions, right? Like with murals, of course I take revisions. That's a different story. But I'm very, very clear about where we are in the process and what kind of feedback I'm looking for from them in that process point. So when I just do initial thumbnails, I'm like, hey, this is just giving us an idea for the overall feel and the direction we want to go from here. Like, I'm going to be playing with a lot of different ideas at this point, and I don't want you to be giving me feedback on specific details in the designs. I want you to be giving me feedback on what is feeling good, what is kind of landing with your overall goals, right? So I line out very clearly what kind of feedback I am looking for from that. And it helps them too. It helps them to know what they should be looking for, and it helps them to know what they should be focusing on. If you just give a non-artist a whole bunch of sketches and say, what do you think? I mean, they have no idea where to begin. And they might be like, yeah, I like this, I guess. You know what I mean? So again, boundaries are really helpful because they create clear expectations for everyone about how to behave and how to work together. Those revisions should be agreed upon before you guys start working together. So you can say, you get 3 revisions. Each of them looks like this, and I won't go outside of that. Or if we end up going outside of that, I'm going to have to increase the price. And then another boundary you can set, and you can put this right in your contract, the artist retains the right to final creative decisions. So at the end of the day, you are the expert and they're hiring you for your services. And as long as you meet the quality expectations as is shown in your previous portfolio, then you are doing your job. And this is a really good way to ensure that your artistic integrity is preserved. Again, working with non-artists can be very challenging because they don't always understand what good art is and also what's possible. So you want to have that boundary set in place somewhere. I get final creative decision, because otherwise, you might end up in a situation where they pick the piece to death, and by the end of it, you don't even know what it is. Okay. And what time are we at here? Okay. I do have a story around that. We'll see if we have time at the end for that. Okay. And then the final boundary to set that's really great is effective communication. So you can talk to them about the best ways for them to reach out to you. If you want them to email you, if you want them to text you, if you want them to send you a message on Instagram or Facebook, kind of let them know what the expectations are there. If you want them to email you, say, I'm always more than happy to respond to emails, and, I'll get to them within 48 hours usually. Things like that just set them up to know how you operate, and so that they know what to expect and they're not surprised. It's also so that, if they start communicating in a way that is stressing you out or making your life worse, you just redirect them to the way you prefer. And then if it becomes a problem, you have a document in your contract and you have pre-established that you will not, be at their beck and call through text messages. Let's see what else. Be really clear about deadlines on their end, you guys. I always like to ask my clients, is there a date that you need this by, that you fully need this by? Because as an artist, you're always shifting your schedule around, you're moving things around to accommodate, last minute projects, new projects. Maybe you were sick one day, maybe something happened to a painting and now you're 3 days behind. You know what I mean? You're always kind of shifting things around. So be aware of any really critical deadlines and make sure to hit those. Otherwise, just make sure you're very communicative about what they can expect. I myself have been very bad at this lately. Like I said, something in my process just changed and I take a lot longer to paint my paintings than I did even a year ago. And, it's just kind of a reality I have to deal with. And now that I've seen it, now that it's happened, 3 times, I'm realizing it's a thing. And from here on out, I will be extending the deadlines that I give my clients longer than I used to. Okay. Lastly, it's always good to also mention to any commission client, just acknowledge that projects don't always go to plan and communicate that you do, sometimes need flexibility and possible reworks, things that, you hope don't happen, but you just never know. Always, whenever you're setting up these kind of boundaries, you guys, where you're saying like, sometimes projects don't go to plan and I need to restart them or I have to rework them and it takes a lot longer than I initially thought. Always frame it with the goal. And the goal for you, like the goal you always want to communicate to your client is that they're going to get the best work possible, right? So I wouldn't say, yeah, sometimes creative projects really go haywire and, you got to throw them away and start over, right? That's not a very good communication. What I would say is, it doesn't happen often, but there is like always the potential with a creative project that it doesn't go to plan. And if that happens, I will definitely communicate with you. But my number one goal is to make sure you get a piece of work that is the highest quality and that you're going to love for the rest of your life. And so I don't want to sacrifice that end goal just to hit deadlines if we don't have to hit them. So I just, if something goes awry, I'll communicate about it. But just, I ask you to be flexible and realize this is part of the creative process. Okay. So again, I hope these boundaries give you some fun ideas for how to set up your commission business. I love boundaries. I love them. It's like creating a frame that you're going to build your house on. They protect you from risks. And the very good thing is they manage customer expectations effectively. Like they're a very good aspect of customer service. When you establish boundaries like this, you're not just protecting your time and energy, but you're ensuring an overall smoother and more enjoyable commission process for everyone involved. So yeah. And if you think of some other boundaries, like these are, maybe not the only ones. I bet there's some other great ones for you and your business specifically. It's really, again, it's about figuring out what you're willing to do for your clients and what you're willing or what you're not willing to do and agreeing upon that, before you all start. Yeah. So how much time do we have here? Okay, we got time. So I'm going to tell you guys a great story really, really fast. So one of my first live wedding painting inquiries was this really nice guy who was getting married about 6 hours north of where I live. And I was so excited. It was sort of like fresh. I had just started selling it. I think he was one of my very first like inquiries that went to a Zoom meeting, to get to know each other and talk about all the details and all of that. And we were really vibing, like we were having a really great conversation. And then he was looking at my portfolio and he told me he loved the work. And then he started to say, but I think would it be possible for you to make it a little bit more realistic? Like I would like it to be a little bit more realistic, and he started saying stuff like that. And that's a red flag, right? The desperate artist, the hungry artist, the artist who needs that income or is working from a place of scarcity and is scared to miss this project would say, oh yeah, totally. I can definitely do that. But what I heard based on my years of experience of doing commissions and working with people I heard him say realistic. And what I realized is he's most likely thinking photorealistic, right? Like he's most likely thinking about art from a non-artist's perspective. And I don't really do photorealism. And then on top of that, he was probably, even if that's not what he was thinking, he didn't have the language we would need for me to really be very clear about what he was wanting. Realistic is a very broad term, and he may not actually know what it meant. You know what I mean? So I started cluing in on that. And again, I really liked him. And of course I would have loved to have said yes. But the way it was crossing a boundary, and that boundary is having unclear expectations, right? Like I don't want to get into a commission situation where the goal and the vision is unclear, because then I'll be spending the entire time I'm making that painting wondering and worrying if I'm doing what the client wants, if I'm hitting their vision or not. It's really hard to create a successful painting that way. And so basically I said, this has been a really lovely conversation, and I wish you the very best wedding ever. I'm sure you guys are going to have a great time, but I don't think I'm your artist. And I think that you may find someone out there that fits better. And that was it. And it was friendly and it was nice, and there was no drama and there was no stress, right? And that was it. That was the end of it. And it's because I was following that boundary. So check that out. Isn't that cool? Can you believe it? Well, we talked all about boundaries and how you can establish boundaries in your business so that you can run really successful commissions that make you feel great and that keeps everybody happy. Definitely, this is something you do learn over time. So pay attention when if things ever go kind of awry or go a little south with a client, just pay attention to what happened. And, you don't need to play the blame game. I mean, we all probably do for a little while, but don't look at it like that, because everybody is weird. We all have a lot going on, and there's so many different circumstances and things happening at all times. Don't necessarily play the blame game. What you want to do is learn where in the interaction and where in the process there was a miscommunication or an expectation was not managed or not set, because that's what happens, right? Like that's where struggle comes from, is when someone's expectation is not hit, or, they feel like they did not get what they were expecting, or, whatever. So just pay attention, like, oh, okay, in this situation, I did not manage my client's expectations well because I assumed they knew too much about the words I was using. Like I used too many art-specific words that aren't normal in their vocabulary. And so our communication actually wasn't very good. And next time I will make sure that I just kind of don't use those words and I keep it a little more vague and a little more broad. That's how you do it. You learn those lessons. I hope this episode was great for you guys. Go there, take some commissions, make some money, connect your art to some people's lives. It's fun, man. It's fun. It's rewarding. Yes, it can be intimidating. Yes, it can feel kind of pressured or constrictive, but it's neat. It's neat to make your art for someone specific and to see their vision and the things that are important to them come to life. Like, you have an incredible skill set and you get to help someone else, celebrate something in their life or whatever it might be.
And that wraps up another episode of The Artist's Guide to Business.
And I'll talk to you
Thank
later.
you so much for joining me today. I hope you found insights that resonate with you and your business and will help you on your artistic journey. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast, leave a review, and share it with your fellow artists. Your support truly makes a difference and helps us reach more creative minds like yours, and we're all in this together. We'll see you next week, and until then, keep creating, keep dreaming, and remember, your art has a place in this world. I'm Kay, signing off from the Artist's Guide to Business.